This time, Will Smith was seen as Hollywood's golden boy, the man who could do no wrong. He wasn't just a superstar. He was a family man who proudly claimed parenting. His way of raising his kids was on another level. But as Jaden Smith started to grow up, that perfect image began to crumble before everyone's eyes. Suddenly, that Smith wasn't so perfect anymore. This isn't about blaming Jaden. Not at all. It's about how his life and choices started to expose the side of Will was never to see. In charisma, began to notice them. For years, Will had one of the cleanest ones in Hollywood. Even those who weren't fans respected him for staying out of trouble. But that image, it wouldn't stay spotless forever. That's exactly why the lawsuit filed by Brian Scott Joseph hit so hard. It wasn't just another wild internet rumor flying around. This one details timelines and serious claims that made people stop scrolling and pay attention.
Did you ever, Jaden, did you feel the...
Yeah, I did. Once I went out into the world and I saw what people, how people about my parents, I didn't understand, it's still understand more and more every day.
Brian Scott Joseph isn't just anyone. He's a professional violinist and a former America's Got, someone with a real career and reputation to protect. According to his lawsuit, he was hired with Will Smith on a tour project. At first, everything seemed smooth and professional, nothing out of the ordinary. But then, Joseph's things started to shift in a right. He claims Will began using personal, emotional language, normal work boundaries. He describes a buildup where he had to stay close, stay quiet, or question what's on. The lawsuit being used to blur lines between business and something way more personal. People believe every word or not, one thing's clear.
All right, sit down, stand up.
Okay, I'm really confused by the...
I'm the to do what I say.
Okay.
Wait, who did wardrobe?
My pants used to be together.
This is important.
It's like this is more of a striped shirt thing.
Did somebody bring some clothes?
Language of those claims differently when you read it closely. This wasn't framed as some small misunderstanding. It was written like something that felt intentional, and things got even more unsettling when described what happened next. He says that while staying at a hotel during the tour, someone entered his room without permission, and when he got back, there was a handwritten note waiting for him. The note, according to wasn't at all. Someone would be coming to hang with him. Did as a friendly move. He says it felt threatening, like a warning wrapped in fake kindness. Any detail shook a lot of people, not just because of what the note said, but because of everything surrounding it. It made folks wonder what was really going on behind closed doors.
What is your worst?
My worst nightmare. I don't have nightmares.
I'd probably say his worst nightmare.
She was asking your worst nightmare and my worst nightmare. Okay. You don't get to tell people my worst nightmare. Okay. How could you?
According to the lawsuit, his concerns, management brushed him off, like he was overreacting. It being heard, he says he was treated like he was the problem. And not long after that, he was fired from the tour. That's when the story started looking unexpected. Will Smith's legal team came out denying every single accusation.
This is unlike him, right? So, all right, I open the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne having anal with Will. There was a couch, and it's bent over on the couch and was standing up, killing him, murder. There was murder in there.
Calling the claims reckless and totally irresponsible. But still, the damage was done. On paper, it became one man's word against one of the most powerful celebrities in the world. And that alone made it news. Once the lawsuit hit the guy, old conversations started begin. People who'd been whispering for years suddenly had attention. And one of those voices, Jaguar Wright. Jaguar Wright had already been stirring up the industry with bold claims about some of Hollywood's biggest names. And Will Smith was right. She alleged that his so-called MIP program wasn't always what it seemed, saying it sometimes appropriate relationships with men. And she didn't stop there. She even brought up Jaden Smith, situated behind deep emotional scars for years. At first, people brushed off Jaguar's words as just another wild story, and it floats around the internet and fades fast. But when Brian Scott Joseph's lawsuit surfaced, suddenly everything felt different. People started that hadn't made sense before. Then came Brother, a longtime friend of Will's, who dropped his own shocking story. He claimed that years ago he walked into a room, caught Will in a situation with another actor. On top of that, he hinted that something serious went down involving Jaden, something so heavy that it allegedly led Jaden to move out of the family home earlier.
You know I love him, Ellen. I love him.
After those claims hit the internet, people started digging deep, replaying old interviews, rewatching, spotting moments completely overlooked before. Detail that started trending old videos where Will Smith was seen kissing Jaden on the lips. Back then, people just saw it as a loving dad being affectionate with his son, nothing more. But now, when those clips resurface, some viewers can't help but notice Jaden's body language looks off. His smile feels tight, his reactions delayed, and there's this in his eye, like he's unsure what to do next. That awkwardness, once easy to ignore, now stands out loud and clear. And it wasn't just one random clip. There were several, for different years and in different interviews. Fans started asking tough questions. Was this really pure affection, or was there a deeper layer of control over how their relationship was being shown to the world? The internet lit up with people dissecting every second of those moments. What makes it hit harder is that these weren't private family moments. They happened right in front of cameras, broadcast to millions. Jaden to choose how those interactions were framed or remembered. Once something like that hits the public, it's there forever. And growing up in that spotlight without full control over your own image can seriously mess with how someone learns about boundaries and personal space. This treated like a joke, you learn real fast that your feelings don't matter. They come second, and when that happens over and over, a person starts to take control back, to reclaim power over their own story. At the time Jaden Smith hit his late teens, had already decided who he was. Different, unusual, hard to figure out. His fashion choices, his cryptic interviews, his out there music, everything he did seemed to keep people, but one moment in particular completely locked in that image. It all came down to how about his relationship with Tyler, the creator.
I just want to say Tyler, the creator, is the best friend, and I love him so much. And I want to tell you guys something. I want to tell you, he doesn't want to say, but it's my boyfriend, and he's been my boyfriend my whole life. Tyler, the creator, is my boyfriend.
For some, it was a moment of raw honesty. Jaden just living his truth but for others, complicated. Not because he liked how quick and one-sided the whole thing seemed. It left fans wondering if it was genuine emotion or a cry for attention from someone taking control of his own narrative. That question exploded at Camp Flog Gnaw 2018, a wild festival no one saw coming. Jaden was performing in a massive crowd, the energy off when he suddenly grabbed them, shouted, "Tyler, the creator, is my boyfriend!" I went crazy. And from that moment on, his image would never be seen the same again. Jaden's public looking less a journey of self-discovery and more like pure self-defense. If he stayed unpredictable, no one could box him in. But to really end why Jada did that shield, you've got to rewind to the moment his trust in his father began to crack. Back in 2013, Will Smith released to Earth.
I'm not going anywhere. What people don't get is everything at his house is free. So I can get anything and everything that I want at his house. I'm gonna be there for 20, 30 more years. He says to have a movie that's bigger than one of his movies.
Yeah, there ain't no reason in the house no more, but.
A movie that was more than just another sci-fi flick. This was Will's personal project, his vision from start to finish. He framed it as a passing of the torch moment between father and son, talking about setting Jaden up for long-term success. In Will's, the perfect into superstardom. But what most people forget is, Jaden was only 14 years old. A kid getting a $100 million movie on his shoulders, sold worldwide as the next big thing. The pressure while acting well. It was about proving his father right, living up to a legacy that was impossible to match. And when After Earth finally hit theaters, everything collapsed. The reviews were, the box office flopped his career. It became the moment that changed everything between father and son.
I just didn't understand how deep-rooted in hip-hop as well.
Yeah, oh gosh, man.
I'm looking at this right here of Tupac on the shirt right there, and Tupac asked to marry my mom, and she was like we're best friends.
Right.
The movie After Earth labeled bad. Critics called it embarrassing, and Jaden gave that heat. He hit right alongside his dad. A kid who grew up that failure was a total shock. Suddenly, all that confidence he'd been raised with, confusion and hurt. Not long after the movie bombed, Jaden made a move that stunned everyone. He asked to become parents. He wanted out, officially and completely. And this wasn't some teenage rebellion spoiled outburst. This was a serious decision from someone who felt trapped. A young man saying he needed to separate from the very people who can guide him. Will later admitted to question him. Deeper truth was this. Jaden felt misled. He felt like his father's ambition put him on display, turning him into a project instead of a betrayal deep. That's the moment everything shifted. It's gone. Jaden stopped seeing his father as a protector and started viewing him as part of the problem. Acting no longer felt like so he pulled away traditional Hollywood roles and reinventing himself completely. Building an entity that refused to fit anyone's. After all the public backlash, Will and Pinkett doubled down on the parenting style they had always sworn by. Strict rules only held kids back, and that punishment did more harm than good. Instead of structure, they focused on deep conversations and total freedom.
Were you ever jealous of the love Jada had for Tupac? Oh my God, and that was in the early.
Letting their kids shots from a surprisingly young age. At first, like raising the next generation of free thinkers. But in real life, especially when fame and normal limits and of freedom is something completely different. Without any consequences, boundaries start to blur fast. Even Will let the truth. His approach he thought it would. He confessed that having no punishment rule was a huge mistake. He said he realized too late that kids don't need harsh control, but they do need clear boundaries. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because they're still figuring out how the world actually works.
We made a very, very, very terrible mistake with our children, and we went with radical Steve. So don't do it. No, listen, it's terrible because they do whatever they want and they just come tell you.
Without limits, everything's even accountability. For Jaden, that freedom came early and all at once. He wasn't just given choices. He was handed a control without the emotional grounding that usually comes with age. When things went wrong, there were no clear rules, no lines to draw between what was okay and what wasn't. Just talks, and talk only goes so far. The kid is overwhelmed, words stop, and that's exactly where the cracks in Jaden's edging started to show. Jaden was pulled out of traditional school. No more classrooms, no tests, no bounce ideas off. His education totally informal and isolated. Will and Jada schools were too restrictive, even harmful, so they built their own system. Gave Jaden full control over what he learned and how he learned it. But Jaden didn't just accept that. He ran with full speed. He started posting online about how he believed were designed to brush kids. Society would be smarter if everyone just dropped out altogether. Teenage thoughts. They were the words of someone who'd grown completely different from how they lived their everyday lives. The real issue wasn't curiosity. It was isolation. School isn't just about books and grades. It's about learning how to deal with people who disagree with you, how to function in a world that's around you. That's the part Jaden missed, and it showed more and more over time.
In my friend group, I'm the only polyamorous person and the least out of all of my friends.
Without to challenge him, his ideas were rarely questioned. Instead of being constantly praised, instead of being tested, they were celebrated. Over the years, that built-up confidence was grounding. He spoke with total certainty, even when what he said didn't quite make sense. Interviews made disconnect crystal clear. He talked about time moving different, about energy and higher thinking. But when you really listened, they didn't quite add up. It was like watching someone searching for meaning out loud without realizing how lost he sounded. That pushback followed him straight into adult. When you grow up never being told no, it hits like so when criticism finally started public, it didn't feel like feedback. It felt cruel. Fashion became his next outlet, his way to express control again. He skirts, bold, gender-fluid looks, and outfits that every norm in Hollywood. Overnight, it became a global conversation. Some people praised him for his courage, while others mocked him relentlessly. Suddenly, Jaden wasn't just an artist, he was a headline. Will later admit that this phase terrified him as a parent. He said it to watch, but he stayed hands-off, letting Jaden figure it out on his own. Didn't care about philosophy, self-expression. It only cared about the spectacle. And when the best hit, Jaden faced it completely alone. The same parents who once shimmed from rules and limits didn't shim from judgment. He was left to absorb millions of with no emotional tools to handle them. What looked like total freedom from the outside often felt like a bit on the inside. The pressure inside doesn't come from just one source, and from a mix of old wounds that never really healed. Beneath all the fame and confidence, there were forming. And one of the biggest hanging over them was Tupac Shakur. Pinkett Smith has always spoken openly about her deep connection with. She never hid it. She talked about describing a bond that was emotional and unlike anything else, but that bond didn't exist and it shaped the entire dynamic, it or not. Even Will Smith once confessed he struggled with Tupac. He said it was secure, like no matter what he did, it never met the connection Jada had with another man. That tension between them, it seeped into the home atmosphere. It's that kind of energy, even when no one says a word, that shocked the public. When people found out that Willow Smith, while still a child, had written a letter saying she wished he'd come back so her mom could be happy again. That single letter made fans deeply uncomfortable, showing just how tangled and emotional it become inside the Smith family. In that letter, Willow wrote that it was sad, and that she needed Tupac to come back. It was meant to be private, something never meant for the world to see. Huge questions and concern. People couldn't help but wonder what kind of emotional weight it was carrying to write something like that. Willow's experience with fame added a whole new layer to the Smith family story. She faced pressures that most kids could never imagine. Attention, high expectations, and the world watching her every move. Eventually, all became too much. She hit a breaking point, quit touring at a shockingly young age, and told everyone she was done with it all. By the time Jaden hit his mid-20s, the surrounding him didn't feel edgy anymore. It felt exhausting. The curiosity from fans turned into because people started noticing how heavy on him seemed. One of them during Paris Fashion Week, when Jaden showed outfits that were impossible to ignore. In one appearance, his entire face was in paint. In another, his clothes looked purposely almost uncomfortable to look. And in a world like high fashion, where eccentric normal takes real intention, and maybe a cry for something deeper, and clearly went all in those Fashion Week looks. But instead of being praised for creativity, the internet turned him into a meme. People didn't talk about the message behind the outfits or the artistry, they just mocked him. Conversation, why can't he just be normal like his dad? It's the shadow Jaden, every move he makes gets Will Smith, and he knows it. That pressure never really fades. Later in an interview, Jaden said something that everyone completely off guard. He admitted he hoped future psychologists would him one day, that they'd look back and try to figure out what was wrong with him. That statement showed he's aware of how people see him as damaged, unstable, or lost. And worse, that he might believe it too. What really stood out was how he said it, not with hope for healing, but with distance, like he already sees himself as a case study, not a human being. That says so much about where his head is. When you grow up on constant cameras, constant comments, constant comparisons, it's easy to feeling real, like your whole life's just performance. In that same interview, Jaden confessed something else, explained so much pain beneath the surface that people rarely are to talk about his music or his ideas. Instead, they only want to talk about his dad, his art, not his growth. It's Will Smith. That kind of isolation doesn't always look like looks on the outside, but inside, it can make someone feel completely invisible. The time of invisibility started to change Jaden. Spotlight that once felt exciting to feel like every photo, every headline, every post, another reminder that he wasn't being seen for himself. The world only wanted the son of Will Smith, not the young man trying to make sense of his own chaos. Behind the scenes, to Jaden say, he started pulling back. Fewer interviews, appearances, more cryptic posts about balance and breaking free. He wasn't chasing anymore, he was running from it, and the more he pulled his into the public, they're calling him weird, unstable, even lost, without ever stopping to ask why he looked that way in the first place. Meanwhile, Jada were still busy managing their own public chaos, open marriage rumors, confessions, and that Oscars moment. Through all of it, Jaden stayed mostly silent. The family name get dragged again. It's hard not to put that kind of pressure who's already been like a mystery his whole life. Fame gave Jaden everything, access, but it took away something far more important, a real sense of self. And that's the irony that hangs over the entire Smith family. They spent years building into total freedom, but somehow ended up feeling trapped. He's famous, he's constantly surrounded by people. But real isolation isn't alone. It's about not being seen. And that's the battle Jaden Smith faces every single day. No matter how much he to break away from his father's shadow, the world keeps dragging him right back into it. Dress is simple, people say he's wasting his privilege. It's wild, they say he's embarrassing the family. There's no middle ground, no safe lane for him to exist in. Over time, bold performances stopped feeling like rebellion. They started feeling like armor. If people are going to laugh no matter what, Jaden might as well control what they're laughing at. That's the mindset he seems to carry now. Protect yourself by owning the chaos. Every choice we've made as a parent is written all over his son's life. What was meant to create freedom ended up breeding confusion. And what was meant confidence up creating about rebellion or attention. It's a story about consequences that took years to surface. So what do you think? Did Jaden fail to balance? Simply handed too much freedom too soon? Will Smith's parenting a visionary, or did it spiral out of his control? Drop your comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you want to see more deeps like this.